All right, let's get right into it. For centuries, there was this legendary city, a place most people thought was just a ghost story from the Arabian desert. So what happens when a story everyone thinks is a myth suddenly isn't? Today, we're unraveling the incredible mystery of Iram of the Pillars.
I mean, this story was so legendary, so compelling, that the famous T.E. Lawrence, Lawrence of Arabia himself, gave it this incredible nickname, the Atlantis of the Sands. He was obsessed with finding it. And that name, it just nails it, doesn't it? A magnificent civilization just swallowed by the desert, completely lost to time.
And for the longest time, this is where the story was just stuck. You had this standoff, right? On one side, you had pretty much all the historians calling it a Bedouin fairy tale. Just a nice little story. But on the other side, you had one single ancient text, the Quran, which insisted, no, this was a real city.
Okay, so let's look at it from the skeptic side first. For centuries, this was the main point of view. And you kind of can't blame them, because the main reason people thought it was a myth was, well, there was zero proof. Nothing. I mean, they call that part of the desert the empty quarter for a reason.
You know what's wild, though? The stories weren't vague. They talked about this city of crazy wealth, and they were always famous for these unique, towering buildings. But that's all there was. Stories. No maps, no pottery shards, no crumbling walls. For historians and archaeologists, it was a total dead end. Case closed, right? Filed under myth. Well, not so fast. While pretty much everyone else wrote it off, that one ancient book kept the story alive. And it wasn't just a quick mention. It had this one super specific detail, a clue you could actually go out and look for.
And here it is. This is the clue. Notice what it says. It gives the city a very specific calling card. Lofty pillars. Think about that. It doesn't say Iram of the Great Walls or Iram of the Golden Domes. No, it zeroes in on the pillars as the one thing that made it totally unique.
In fact, the original Arabic is even more direct. That al-Imad. It literally means of the pillars. So this isn't just some flowery language. It's practically a name tag. It's like the text is saying, hey, future archaeologists, if you happen to stumble upon a lost city out here with some seriously impressive pillars, you found Iram.
And for hundreds and hundreds of years, that one clue was it. Just a line in a book. But then, the 20th century happens, and the hunt for Iram goes from dusty libraries straight into outer space. Things are about to get real.
Just take a look at this timeline. It really puts it into perspective, right? You've got the original legend way back in ancient times, then, boom, centuries of nothing. T.E. Lawrence brings it back into the spotlight, and then another huge gap. Over 60 years go by before we get to the main event in 1992.
So how on earth did they finally crack it? Well, it's an amazing story. A group of amateur archaeologists, believe it or not, got their hands on some incredible tech, NASA satellite imagery. This stuff could literally see through the sand. So here's the brilliant part. They weren't looking for a city. They were looking for ancient roads, the old camel caravan routes, like ghost highways under the desert. And they noticed something incredible. A whole bunch of these invisible roads all came together at one single point. That was it. That was their X on the map.
And this is it. This is the moment of truth. You've got a team with a clue from an ancient book and a map from a satellite heading into the middle of nowhere, the largest sand desert on the planet, the empty quarter.
So, after all that time, centuries of stories, decades of searching, what were they going to find? Was it all for nothing, or was something incredible waiting for them under the sand?
They started digging, and they found it. The ruins of a huge fortress. And guess what its most obvious standout feature was? 8 massive towers. 8 lofty pillars. It was almost unbelievable. The one specific clue from that ancient text was staring them right in the face.
Okay, so archaeologists officially identified the place as the ancient city of Ubar, a super important trading post that had just vanished from history. But here's the kicker. Ubar was always linked in historical traditions to the people of Ad. And who were the people of Ad? They were the exact same people from the story of Iram. All the pieces were clicking together.
And this wasn't some small academic discovery. This was huge. It made headlines everywhere. The New York Times front page. I mean, can you imagine? The entire archaeological world was floored. A city that was literally a fairy tale was now a pin on a map. So let's just step back and put it all together. Because what happened here is that the evidence didn't just support the legend,
It completely rewrote the history books.
All right, let's break it down. For centuries, the skeptics said it's just a Bedouin fairy tale. Well, the evidence says, nope, it's a massive fortress. They said the whole lofty pillars thing was just poetic language. But the evidence, the lofty pillars, were the main thing they built. And the biggest one, this city never existed. And then NASA says, actually, it's right here. You just had to look under the sand.
And really, that's the bottom line here, isn't it? The story that was brushed aside for centuries as nothing more than a fairy tale turned out to be a fortress.
It really makes you think, you know? If the Atlantis of the Sands was a real place all along, what other stories that we've dismissed as myths are just history that we haven't found yet?